Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Wednesday. We're back on our regularly scheduled day after a surprise short show on Sunday. How is everybody? Thank you for being here. Pat, my friend, how are you?
I'm good. And I just got to warn you, we got some terrible weather here. And I think it's screwing with my internet because that intro, I didn't get to watch any of it, and then it just popped up, and it was me and you. So,
oh wow,
we'll play it by ear. But
hilarious.
And I know there's a delay. Like here, I'm gonna wave. I just waved. Let's see how long it takes to show.
That wasn't bad.
Second.
Yeah,
but other than that, it's good. It's good here. You can't complain.
Yeah.
How's your world?
We are really at the mercy of the tech these days, huh?
We are.
Yeah, you'll be lagging. I will freeze, and we'll just hope for the best. We'll cross our fingers.
Jenna's comment wasn't related to my hand gesture. It was actually following up to her other comment.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Yeah,
it fits so well right there.
It really does. Yeah, we're just Putin's puppets. We're just maybe Putin doesn't want us to have a good show, and that's why the internet is lagging for you and kicking me out of this room.
In our fascist government system we have now, it probably wouldn't be illegal for them to just spike protesters' internet and suppress our efforts.
For sure, that will be happening at some point. They're doing their best. They're doing their best to make that happen. I know I'm seeing all of these comments that I want to read, all of it, glitching everybody. Derek says he's also having the same situation. Yes,
I just saw atmospheric river. I could be wrong, but I think they made that term up last year. I'd never heard it until last year, and it was like all the rage. But they are warning we have a week of the atmospheric river here in Sacramento.
Well, they created the climate disaster situation, so they get to come up with the terminology. I just think that we should put like Exxon's atmospheric river,
right?
McKinsey's immunity debt leading to lots of COVID deaths.
Joe Biden's wet winter.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Kim says that it is looking good. So does Kimmy. All right. All right. So, we changed our format a little bit a few days ago or a couple of weeks ago, and still ironing out some glitches, but one just at the top to thank our new members and our returning members, current members. We are so grateful for our pup heroes and sheroes. Thank you all so much. It really means a ton to us. Thank you. Hoping that it kind of helps the algorithm, the ever elusive algorithm on YouTube. So thank you. We really appreciate that so much. You asked me how I was, and I winced because I threw my back out again. Because I think I mentioned a couple days ago or a couple weeks ago, why do I keep doing that? That I've started exercising again. So, and I went a little heavier on the weights probably than I should have, and I tweaked my back, and I was trying to walk my dog, and she yanked me, and we just So I might be drinking more than normal today, and I also have my wine right here with me in case I just need to move right into it. In case of emergency.
In solidarity with you, I have stopped working out. I'm not going to the gym, but I feel fine. So there's a moral to the story here, probably.
Yeah. I think, I'm definitely happier when it's not looming ahead of me that I have to work out. But then after I work out, I always feel better. But, I don't enjoy it.
But you will have an injury here and there. Pro tip, as someone who's thrown his back out a bunch, as soon as you do it, lay on the ground and pull your knee into your chest and stretch it. Because if you hurt your back and you stretch it, it really speeds up the recovery time. You're talking about 2 days sometimes versus 10 days. So
I know this is I thank you, Dr. Cody, and I'm just, this can be like a therapy session. I've been throwing my back out since I was about 11 and have been dealing with this, and it's just, yes, stretching is good, but holy cow. You'll see me yelp a couple times today. All right, that's so boring. Let's move on. Let's talk about to whom we are sending our initial cheers out today, which, we're trying to remember sort of like our guiding mission of creating this show, which is, yes, to cover politics and important, media and political and powerful people lives, but also to remember to have some fun together and bring each other joy and kind of remind ourselves what we're fighting for, which is each other. So,
right. And finding some of the positive, like highlighting some of the things that we can do and people are doing, and what could actually work in this system, and also drinking beverages.
And also drinking lots of, exactly. Yeah, sorry. How could I forget that? That was just like a given. That's like air, water, breathing. Okay, so today our cheers goes out to Three Pines Coffee in Salt Lake City, which has eliminated tipping, raised their wages from $8 an hour to $18 an hour. The owner realized that tips were good in the summer, but inconsistent in the winter to pay for the higher wages. He, and I wrote down their names, but they, I think, raised the price of a cup of coffee about $1. That is Meg Frampton and Nick Price, who started their Salt Lake City coffee venture from a cart in 2015 and have grown into a fine establishment. Nice. So cheers to Three Pines Coffee. As somebody who waited tables for a decade and hated it. It is awful to be at the mercy of the people who come in treating you well. And, when you go to Europe or other places and you realize that tipping is just not a thing, that workers, servers are given proper salaries with benefits and pensions. And what tipping really is a way of just the public having to make up for management not paying their workers properly. And, I always tip. I tip a lot, but we should smash that system and just make sure everybody is guaranteed a good salary.
Amen. My Christmas bonus this year was my boss actually giving me the tip that he normally withholds that a customer gave us. I know it because we worked at the customer's house before and they gave the same amount as a tip. So, I choose to be in this situation, but because it works for me at this moment. But bosses will get away with whatever they can. It's like it's great to see somebody seeing the benefit and actually providing for their workers, and this is what we need in the future. And anyway, it's $1 more for coffee, but a cup of coffee is already ridiculously overpriced anyway. Yeah. If you're budgeting, you're probably not buying your coffee out. And if you are, you can probably add another $1 to make sure workers are getting their fair shake.
That's right. I agree. So cheers to Three Pines. Let's make sure everybody has a dignified living wage in this country and the world. Cheers. All right. What do you think? Should we get down to it?
Let's do we're bringing our wheel back. So let's go there. This video is not playing for me.
All right. So we've got, we're not doing the wheel yet. What are you doing?
We aren't doing the wheel, are we?
We're so excited. We heard you guys. We brought it back. We saw in the chat people talking about it. So we're bringing it back, but in a slightly different way. Sorry.
Well, with my tech problems, I couldn't watch the video. Like it started and it stopped, and then I come back. So I just was.
Oh, that stinks. I'm really sorry.
That's all right.
It will make it so much easier, though, for me to just interrupt you and kind of like run the show.
Just maybe we'll just put.
All right. Very funny. This week we have got coviditis. That was harder to say than it was to
I
look
probably
at
should have gone with covitis or something.
Coviditis, war crime time, top ramen for all, worst of the week, and one good thing. So we will start with, there's not a ton new with COVID this week, unless the, death of 2,575 people just this week is newsworthy, which, is completely not mentioned on any corporate news, legacy media, nowhere. It's just like living with it, losing almost 10,000 people in the month of January. That's where we are right now.
I think we're getting to the point, though, where it's starting to affect people. Like they're starting to see it around them. Like, not to be bleak, but I lost a cousin, and the guy, his dad died. So wait, I lost a cousin who was 60-ish, and the father lost the wife of him. So anyway, two people died of mysterious unknown heart problems in the same family in the week. Like neither had COVID.
When was that, Pat?
What's that?
When?
Just one of them was yesterday. One of them was
gosh.
So yesterday they lost.
So sorry.
Well, yesterday they lost the cousin, and then the dad, who is still existing, who lost his son, lost his wife yesterday. And they're both unlabeled as COVID, who knows, heart stuff, but it's really, it's peculiar. So my point is not to be morbid about this,
right?
But I think it's hitting home to a lot of people how many family and friends are mysteriously just dying and early and without cause. And the dots are starting to connect for people, I hope.
I hope so too. I mean, that's horrible. And what an awful way to have to arrive at that connection. And the other part of it is where we keep being told, and I know we've all talked about this ad nauseum now for almost 4 years, but they only really talk about deaths, which is horrifying. And that's certainly, worth lots of mentioning, but that's not the only bad result from having COVID. And, many of us go on to have long COVID, and many of us don't even know if we will end up with long COVID, because as we, read last week, you don't ever get rid of it. It's not, your body, it's in your tissues and your organs. They find it there years later. So
it's doing organ damage to everybody on some level. And who knows what the real outcome is 10 years from now, but we're seeing the death tolls increase, and everybody just seems to think, well, I survived the acute phase, because that's what they think COVID is just you get it, you get COVID. It was bad, but I got through it. That's it. And in reality, obviously, we all know that that's not it. And these, most people think long COVID is just some sort of like anomaly that a few people are going to get, if they believe it at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was some good news. This guy's not a hero by any means.
Not at all.
But the health secretary, I forget his name, but
Becerra.
I don't remember. Anyway, he actually defended the CDC's COVID isolation guidance that was shortened to 5 days. But he's actually calling for the public now to take COVID seriously. Wow.
Right. So he's responding to California making it a 1-day isolation period, which is ridiculous. This feels a lot to me like the $15 minimum wage, though. It's like 5 days is way too short, right? 5 days is way too short. And that now, because, what's his name? Biden listened to the head of Delta.
The planes. Yeah.
The Delta CEO. We I'm so sorry, Jessica. I know, I'm sorry. I'm not even getting, I'm seeing people write the most tragic things, and I'm so sorry because I'm not able to respond properly, but I just want you to know how sorry I am, but I'm not going to keep putting it up because I feel like I'm not addressing it with the proper response. So I'm sorry. It's just awful. But it's like the $15 minimum wage, where that's not a living wage. A living wage is like $27 an hour right now. So then when Biden is saying he's going to fight for it and then allows the parliamentarian to say no, then we're all stuck in a position where it's like, God, we really needed that $15 minimum wage, and we're fighting over, like, it's not even a compromise. It's so if this feels a little bit reminiscent of that to me, where it's like, he's going to defend the 5-day one, which is going from 10 to 5 and actually doing anything apart from saying, do not come back in public until you test out. You get paid sick leave, all of those measures that should have been put in place that were stripped away. And now we're like, oh, if only we could have the 5-day one, which wasn't sufficient.
It is absurd. I'm going to take it as a small win, even though it's not, obviously. Yeah. But look, everybody says that Biden can't do anything here. That's the defense the liberals will give you. And like, well, politically, it's a death wish, or he doesn't have power. They don't hold he has supreme authority over health issues in a pandemic. Like, there's no stopping what he could do via executive order in this situation. Lila, you're frozen.
God.
Whoa, don't look at me. But Biden could do, he can enact all kinds of, he has tremendous power to protect our citizens without waiting for Congress and the Senate to act, especially in a pandemic. They're explicitly laid out for him. So that argument is just very weak. And, there's no leadership on COVID on any level. They've just pretended it doesn't exist. And in fact, the balls of these people, part of Biden's strategy is to run on being post-pandemic now, like that he got us through this time. And do you want to risk going back to Trump, like as if Trump somehow botched COVID and he didn't? And, meanwhile, let's look at the numbers here. They're awful. We've got freaking 248,000 new cases a day. We were at 2 million. I mean, we probably still are at 2 million.
Yeah. How can they even tell that, right? Like, I think that's way low.
This is not the wastewater reporting, probably,
right?
Is my estimation.
Well, and the wastewater is a little bit of a lagging indicator, and most people who are testing aren't doing official PCR tests with their doctors, right? So
exactly,
they've taken away all the data. I mean, if Trump did this when Trump suggested, like, oh, if we stopped testing, we wouldn't have cases, everybody made fun of him.
Right, and I mean, all you have to do if you're running against Biden is say, look, you're Fauci, who worked under you. He worked under both, but Fauci, who said 10,000 cases a day is when we could feel okay about this. Like, so even in these terrible, inaccurate numbers, we're at 248,000. So, that's exponentially off of the 10,000 where we're supposed to say we're post-pandemic.
Yep.
So if you're running against him and you're Trump, who knows where Trump goes with this, but he could use this against him and point out the actual data.
I mean, he will, and he'll be right to, and he'll say, listen, I did Operation Warp Speed. I handed you the vaccines. There's been no real improvement on the vaccines, honestly. We see that Here's the vaccines. This is where they came in February 2021. And that graph, that huge spiking, blue line is COVID deaths. So it did not, and I am not anti-vaxxer, and they decided that saying you still had to use non-pharmaceutical interventions would be somehow anti-vaxxer. That's why one of our shows has been blacked out by YouTube. We've fought against it, but medical misinformation, because we said you still need to wear masks after Biden and Dr. Jill said, rip off your mask and smell that sweet, sweet air. So there's never been a pandemic that's been solved by vaccine only. It's just impossible.
Yeah, but it's strategically, the public has been misinformed by Biden. That's the bottom line. So you look at the vaccines deaths. This person shared the tweet was that they shared it with a friend who thought the pandemic was over when they got the vaccines. And sadly, that's a lot of the goddamn public. And then the other piece is that people think, well, it's kind of like, it's about like the flu. We're living with it now, about like the flu, 20 to 40 times more deadly. And that's just pretty much the acute phase, because they're not really tracking what long COVID is doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I just 100%. Want to say on the vaccine itself, even like Biden he celebrates a win because they got jabs in arms, you know. But if you look at the trajectory when Trump ramped up the project, like, what was it?
Operation Warp Speed.
Of course, it was Operation Warp Speed. Because it sounds like a Spaceballs kind of thing or something.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just ridiculous. But the trajectory he put the country on, it didn't change. It's not like suddenly Biden got in and it all changed. He actually got the system up and running. It was on pace. It expanded on the same pace that Trump was expanding it.
Yeah.
So claiming that as a win is just stupidity.
It is 100% stupid, and it's gone down. Like, people getting boosters. I mean, like, the numbers under 25 are, I mean, I think it might even be single digits, but even just the regular boosters, like, they've done such a poor job.
He has turned the country against vaccine science in general. And
Measles,
sure, a lot of this is
TB.
A lot of this is led by the right wing, but there's no counter to their messages because he's pretending none of this exists.
Right.
That leaves a void. And the only science out there is the junk science that people like Jimmy Dore and the right wing people latch onto and spread.
100%. And, you know, the politicization of it all. Yeah. The TB problem. I mean, it's crazy, but the politicization started under Trump with Democrats saying, I don't think I'm going to trust that vaccine. You know, we have several prominent Democrats, including the president and vice president of the United States, in November of 2020, saying they weren't sure they were going to trust a Trump-made vaccine. And then as soon as Biden came in, they said, yeah, trust it. And then, so already that's just pitting everybody against each other. But then, yes, crucially important would have been to say, as they all knew, as anybody who is in medicine or studies this knows, there is no way to solve this vaccine only. They said it under Trump. And then they just shut up under Biden. So follow the science.
Yep. And I just want to point out that, look, the scientists were never saying that this vaccine is our only answer to this. The scientists were not. It was the politicians that made all the false claims. Yep. And I'll put Fauci in that level too. He's a scientist, but they made a lot of false claims about the efficacy of the vaccine. And that has hurt science a lot. But most of that rhetoric came from politicians. So like when people accuse us of being scaredy cats and whatever they want to say about us being sheep, we're listening to science. I'm not listening to politicians. You're the people listening to the politicians thinking you're safe. You are the sheep.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny that anybody says like, oh, take your mask off, you sheep. And the looks I get and people making fun of me and telling me I'm paranoid or whatever, you know, it's like, I'm the only person anywhere we go who's wearing a mask. So, yeah.
Yeah, like I just flew to Utah, and granted on the flight there were 3 masks, which is pretty pathetic, but I thought there were none.
3 people on board.
And there were 2 people came on late that had masks.
Yeah.
One with a baby, toddler, 2-year-old, and they weren't masked. I don't know. It might be impossible to mask a 2-year-old. I don't know. I'll give her a pass on that. But literally no one on the flight back. So how am I the sheep when I'm the one out of 300 on a plane? I don't know.
Yeah, like getting kind of like nasty looks from people too.
Right, like I'm the sheep, really.
Yeah,
I think I'm the one who has some balls. And
or a really big vagina.
But...
A really big vagina. Grow a vagina and put on a mask. Just reminding everybody, sorry, and thank you. Someone in the chat just reminded, please make sure to like and subscribe and smash that notification bell so that when we do random shows on a Sunday, you can you'll all know. Devin, no, I'm kidding. He wrote and said, Well, I was just gonna say that we have a different person for worst of the week, but COVID related. This is our COVID related worst of the week guy right here. Is that showing on screen for you right now? It is not. Do you want me to put it up? I'm putting it up. Okay. David Sedaris, who we also had as, I mean, before we were doing this as a, worst of the week segment, he was the one who said he just went back to, he literally said, I went back to sleep once Biden came into power, and didn't care that, Biden was doing everything Trump was doing. But anyway, this is his piece from the 22nd. So what are we, that was last Monday or something, in the New Yorker. Talking about one of his oldest best friends. One of Dawn's lungs collapsed when she was in her late 50s. So she was super cautious about COVID, kept her face covered long after everyone else had returned to normal. We were in Chicago together at O'Hare in the spring of 2022 when I told her she needed to take it off. But she said, let it go. I told her, everyone else has. I felt like a director coercing an actress to unhook her bra for a sex scene. Come on, I said, you can do this. Start by just lowering it to your chin. She took off her mask and then, of course, immediately got COVID. A bad case, too. All my fault, but she's never held it against me. There are so many disgusting aspects, actually, to that piece, layers of it. Layers.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that she's never held it against him, that's his opinion. Yeah. I kind of think she probably does, and he's probably in a position of power, and it's not like he
gets to narrate the story.
She's going to rip him apart and miss, I don't know, any benefits of his social stature. Yeah. I mean, who is he to say that? But I mean, I appreciate him putting it out there so bluntly, but he should say, and then I learned my lesson and I'm not such a piece of shit now. Yeah.
Yeah. He should say something. I read that whole piece, and there are other parts, because he's talking about her in this piece. And how strange she is, and a little off-putting and really weird. And so I made her test as an adult to see if she had autism.
Right.
It was it was so tone deaf to, I guess that would have been, considered humorous 30 years ago to make fun of, to be ableist like that. But it's 2024. We don't do that. We don't body shame. We actually kind of don't make fun of that sexual pervy director thing like that. I don't know. And I don't mean to take away all humor, but when you write it down, when it's not off the cuff, and that's a piece in the New Yorker, I don't know. That was revealing on many levels that were really disgusting to me.
Yeah. Okay. We have a little bit more on COVID, but I think we should probably just move on to keep the show flowing a little bit. I did want to point out, one positive thing here that is informative somewhat. Michael Mina shared this.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a site, testtotreat.org, where anyone in the U.S. 18 and older can enroll and get telemedicine and treatment for free. If the treatment, if prescribed, can be delivered to your door and will be entirely paid for by the program. No copays. So please take that web address down if you have friends that are in need, or if you forget, just DM me or something and I'll find it.
Yeah, testtotreat.org. I signed up for that and got tests. But then I don't know. I didn't follow through, and maybe that was after, but I did get 4 free tests a while ago. Anyway, it's worth a shot. I know people are writing online right now, people in their 70s are writing that they're not being prescribed Paxlovid. So I guess try that and see if you have better luck with it.
And Paxlovid, as your doctor told you that for you, that wasn't the best treatment necessarily.
Right. And then I had to fight hard
or something.
No, that actually their finding is really bad.
Oh.
Paxlovid is still the only one. No, it was metformin, which Dr. Howard advised me to take. And there were all these studies in the Lancet and science journals that said it decreases your occurrence of long COVID by 60%. And then, of course, of the 3 of us in my house at the time who had COVID, I was the only one whose symptoms persisted for 2 months. And my son and husband were done after just a few days. But anyway, I did take it. But I guess I had to fight with my doctor and with the pharmacist. It was days of fighting. It was ridiculous.
Well, who knows? Right. But there's a possibility that the fact that you had a longer reaction and whatever and you took the metformin, could be good for you, honestly, when you think of long COVID, because that could have been you clearing out some of the, I mean, who knows?
I like that.
You just
I like
don't
that
know.
thought. Yeah.
But anyway, listen to the doctors, research as much as you can, but there's a site that may potentially help some people.
Yeah, 100%.
50%.
Hey, let's bring that wheel on. Let's see what we got with our wheel.
Should I try it? Let's
try it. It's going to be a lag, but let's give it a shot. Look at that. All right. So we decided that because we want to get to all of our topics and we don't want to be dependent on the wheel getting to them in a timely fashion, but we still, again, we heard you all and we did miss that wheel. So we're putting timeline cleanses and kind of fun little small segments on there, and of course lots of shots. So that is what our wheel is gonna, that's the wheel of fate now. Yeah, and I think if we get a shot, we'll just spin again to get some silly things, so you guys can not just watch us doing a shot, you can watch some video or something. Right.
I enjoy looking for these things. I'm gonna make it this is like work, me scrolling Instagram for cat videos and shit.
There you go. It's your new vocation.
This is why we need to be paid for what we do. This right here.
Spin the wheel. Let's go.
No, I want to talk some more.
I need my shot.
You're grabbing a beer as it lands.
Okay. Timeline cleanse. Here we go.
Okay.
Are you doing it or am I? I'm concerned about your lag times here.
No, I can do this. Let's see. Timeline cleanse. Okay. If I can just scroll a little faster. Here we go. Let's get some music.
She's got smile that it seems to me remind me childhood memories where everything was as fresh as the bright blue sky. She's got smile that it seems to me remind me childhood memory where everything was as fresh as the bright blue sky. See her face, she takes me back to that special place. And if I stay too long, I probably break down and cry. Ah, sweet child of mine.
That actually sounds a lot like me doing karaoke, and I love karaoke. It's not a pretty sound. All right, we are moving on to war.
Yeah, baby, war crime time. Let's do it. Let's do those war crimes.
Get
in. We're doing a war crime.
Yeah, get in. I didn't put it in the proper order. Okay, so on Friday, the ICJ came down with their not verdict, which I know a lot of U.S. media was trying to say, oh, well, they didn't call it a genocide, but that's not what they were supposed to do at that point. They were just supposed to judge whether or not there was enough there to do a trial, which could go on for years. And they absolutely said there was, so much so that they even in their reading of that, it's not a decision, but sorry, I've had something in my eye, a dog hair in my eye.
No, but their tentative ruling essentially called for immediate action in a lot of areas to not genocide. They didn't expressly call it a genocide, but they said Israel must do these steps to not genocide now.
And it comes down to all other states in the world have a responsibility to help prevent a genocide if they happen to see one going on.
Right. So the ICJ, which we essentially created and control, is siding with Palestine on this issue.
Yeah, with South Africa and Palestine.
Are the facts of the case.
Right, exactly. So since that decision, this is I think it's pronounced Thacker, but I'm not sure. He's a journalist with The Intercept. Since the International Court of Justice ruled 5 days ago that Israel is plausibly committing genocide, Israeli forces have reportedly killed 818 Palestinians and injured 1,462. Also, since that announcement, Israeli forces reported, we did that. Hind, a 6-year-old girl, watched as Israeli forces shot and killed her family inside the car she was in. Footage showing Israeli soldier echoing Netanyahu's rhetoric. We killed thousands of Amaleks. Morally, every Arab is a suspicious entity. Footage showing Israeli soldier forcing a busload of kidnapped Palestinians to praise his family and say they will be his family's slave. New BBC story, UNICEF says its biggest concern is for an estimated 19,000 children who are orphaned or who have ended up alone. Palestinians are eating animal fodder. Between 50 and 62% of all buildings in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed. 30 handcuffed, blindfolded, executed bodies found in a school in northern Gaza. This is the journalists discovered 50 bodies of Palestinians tied up and executed in Khan Yunis. These are the prisoners of war kidnapped by Israel's military, and they are in white disposable coveralls, blindfolded, barefoot, and with numbers written on their back. The latest thing that is an absolute war crime. There's me with my glasses because I can't see. And I'm sure, we didn't pull the video because it's just showing these, it's like watching snuff films. I mean, it's so horrifying, but Israeli soldiers dressed as doctors and Palestinian civilians going inside a hospital and assassinating 3 patients. Those patients those 3 were claimed by,
of course, Hamas.
Well, they claim that they were Hamas, but also Hamas and some other group claimed them. So possibly they were. I think one of them was like a spokesperson, but they were also in a hospital lying there. Like you could take them as a prisoner of war. And also it was in the West Bank, not in Gaza. It was in the West Bank where the IDF controls it entirely. Like, so there was no need for what they did.
No, and what they did is it's literal terror.
Terrorism.
Under the definition of terrorism, but it is to cause terror because they've destroyed every hospital. They've bombed every single fucking hospital. Remember when there was a debate about, that wasn't our bomb that went there. We don't target hospitals. And then you accidentally bombed every hospital, every single one. So this is causing if you're a Palestinian, you are fearful of everything that exists. There is no safe place.
No safe place. I mean, refugee camps, schools. Yeah. And I mean, the list goes on and on. Not the worst. There's so many horrible things. This is another thing. The cemeteries that they've destroyed, I think 16, 17 cemeteries that they've just dug up. So you can't even allow your dead to rest in peace because they are bulldozing up buried bodies in cemeteries.
What we're getting is this, of course. The U.S. and Israel are essentially both ignoring, attacking the decision, and pretending they won with the decision. Yeah. So they're creating this fog of it's complicated, like they have with the entire conflict from the beginning, 20, 30 years ago,
75
years ago, 75 years ago.
Yeah.
But they want people to be confused about what the right response is and think it's a nuanced situation. It provides defense for people to not get educated on what's actually happening to Palestine.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is really horrifying to see that it had absolutely no effect at all on carrying out these atrocities. And then the next is this what? Okay, before we go to the yeah,
go ahead.
No, it was on the same day, I think. But I did just want to say that this is really interesting, and I hadn't realized this, but Hamas stopped firing at Tel Aviv just after South Africa filed its application to the ICJ on December 29th. All of January, as the ICJ set a date, heard arguments, and then gave their orders, Hamas didn't fire a single rocket at Tel Aviv. They said just before the ICJ announced its decision that they would abide by a ceasefire order from the ICJ. Then on Friday, the ICJ orders came. Israel kept bombing. U.S. and company then went after UNRWA, which we're about to talk about. Only then did Hamas resume strikes at Tel Aviv. Well, I mean, what do you do with that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got two sides here in this war, and one side is saying we'll abide by the International Court of Justice, and one side isn't.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. One of the reasons that they did not call for a ceasefire is because this is not a war between two nations and two militaries. This is an occupying nation with an enormous military being sponsored by the most powerful country in the world, financially and militarily, fighting against, like, waging war on its occupied territory. So to call for a ceasefire would imply that it's two nations, and it's not, which is part of,
right, because Palestine is essentially being pummeled, and they are powerless. So any action by them, even if it's atrocious, is a whole different level of violence compared to what Israel can unleash on them and has been unleashing on them. So, for Palestine or Hamas to stop lobbing their few bombs that get blocked every time by their massive
rockets,
the great shield we've spent billions of dollars on.
The defense, what is that? The Iron Dome?
Iron Dome.
Yeah. But then that wasn't enough, because not only are they killing, like directly bombing and killing Palestinians, civilians, but the thought and part of the genocide is that the starvation and disease are going to kill hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, even after the war ends, the massacres end. And the one group that provides for Palestinians is UNRWA, right? So right away, Wall Street Journal comes out, and this was on the 29th. Oh, you were right. 24th, 5th, 6th. Oh God, Pat, I hate saying it. You were right. It wasn't on the same day.
We need a graphic with the video and explosions and shit that just comes on.
Pat was right. It wasn't on the same day. Okay. The one time I was right. No, I'm kidding. So even in that little subheading, so it says intelligence reveals details of UN agency. So that's UNRWA, the UN agency, the Works Relief Agency, links to October 7th attack. Around 10% lie of Palestinian ad agencies, 12,000 staff in Gaza have links to militants, according to intelligence dossier. And this was written by this David Lunhow and Carrie Keller-Lynn. So
and they're using Kevin Bacon level of a friend of a friend of a friend who is once worked for the Palestinian Authority or something, who has a connection to Hamas or something. It's just absurd. The UN fired like 8 people, I think, over it.
I think they fired 7 of them. Yeah. And they started an investigation, and 2 of them are dead. So
right. But to pull the major funding of the biggest humanitarian effort that is happening
food,
over there,
schools, it's shelter, it's hospitals.
Shortly after the UN says this is a genocide and you're going to be starving, they literally are telling part of their order essentially was that you need to provide massive amounts of humanitarian aid, and you're not doing it now. And then following that ruling, we pull out all of the major source of humanitarian aid for these people.
It is so vile, and nobody is doing anything. And, Cora, if Israel and Western leaders aren't charged with war crimes, at least by the ICC, the international courts will have no legitimacy. But there's, the International Hague Act that started in 2002, which is the U.S. will invade The Hague if any U.S. citizen is charged by the ICC with a war crime.
This is our rules-based order that we put on the rest of the world. We say if you trade with China, or we have all these crazy rules.
Yeah, sanctions, this and that. Yeah,
you're breaking international law if you do this, and countries are now flaunting. They are ignoring that entirely, as they should.
Yeah.
But it just shows we are losing our stature in the world. This empire is falling in a hurry. We are bombing hard right now, like as a country, and we should be.
Yeah. So a few things. One is the number now went from 12 down to 4. And of course, because of StreamYard, I couldn't upload that graphic, but went from 12 down to 4 that they are now claiming were, let me just see, because I think I have it right here. I'll just read. Yeah. So it went down from 12 to 4 out of 30,000 UNRWA employees that they have now changed. Israeli intelligence report claims 4 were involved in Hamas kidnappings. So that's number one. That just came out today. Then the other thing is they started uncovering that reporter, the woman, Carrie Keller Lynn, was an IDF soldier and best friends with this woman right here, who is an IDF spokesperson and runs the social media for the IDF. So that's who's doing the investigative reporting with some dossier. And as somebody asked in the chat, they haven't said what the dossier is or who provided it. Right? They're saying, what the IDF, Israeli intelligence, everything that they've talked about so far has been lies. Every single accusation they've made has been debunked.
And all you have to do is look, take all the claims on face value, and that's enough to dismiss it as like not a reason to shut down the aid coming in. It's if there were 12 people, do you stop aid to a whole country of people because of 12 people out of 30,000?
Right. Especially because UNRWA said that they will investigate. They fired the people. I mean, now, if they fired 7 people, but only 4 apparently have been linked by the Israeli intelligence. But that is collective punishment, which is a war crime.
So these are the countries committing genocide right now by pulling support from UNRWA. I'm sorry, US, Canada, UK, Finland, Australia, Italy, and Netherlands. It's genocide. The ruling just came out that if these people don't get food and help, they're dying. They're dying right now. Right. And because of that, this country and all 7 of these countries are believing some bullshit about 4 people out of 30,000, and you're going to stop funding. You're going to stop feeding all the kids.
And meanwhile, I mean, even if that were true, first of all, the whole terrorist designation is so upsetting because you could lob that accusation, and I sort of would, at every military operation and police force. So, and in every single one, there are going to be a few bad apples. And those 4 bad apples are now being used as an excuse to further the genocide being committed against Palestinians. And nobody is doing anything. Where are the Houthis?
Oops, sorry, that wasn't the one I meant to land on, but the Five Eyes, that's the Five Eyes countries pulling, plus a couple other, I meant to land on this one because Spain and Ireland are now getting more. Kudos to them. Here's Spain. They sent another $10 million in euros in Gaza today, tripled their funding to Palestine. So, we are the country that looks bad to everybody in the world. Those 7 countries, the UK and the US, are the colonialists of the world, and we are the empires of evil, essentially, now. I mean, truly. And everybody sees it.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody sees it. It is still just, and I mean, of course, that's wonderful, but it's, on a much larger scale, it's like the George Floyd protests where, yes, we all see now the police brutality and the random killings and torture of our own citizens that go mostly unpunished. It's where most of the police budgets go to, is, having to defend these sadistic officers, and then nothing changes. And so now, hundreds of people are still being killed every day. They're, they're being operated on with no anesthesia. They are losing limbs. They don't have clean water. They don't have electricity to clean the sewage. There's there's the downstream repercussions of the bombs, which are horrific enough, and just like destroying the infrastructure in Gaza, and nobody is dealing with that, and no one is stopping it. Spain, Ireland, and the Houthis. And we're now in World War III, basically. Yeah.
And yet, literally today, we're getting an article from Newsweek that Israel implemented more measures to prevent civilian casualties than any other nation in history. /opinion /bullshit /propaganda. I mean, that is just nonsense. And to look at the ruling, to see the civilian to militant death ratio is the highest in history. It's the absolute highest.
Yep.
And whoever wrote that article should just be labeled forever propagandist. Get the fuck out of here. Nothing you say will ever matter.
But then they just keep bringing him back. I mean, seriously, I wish that's the way it were, but they just keep failing up. And it's like the David Leonard, he's done minimizing the COVID.
It's hey, if you lie to our employees, we'll make you a manager.
Right, exactly.
That's how it works in this country. But I did want to highlight, one good thing.
That's right. World's biggest coffee chain cuts sales forecast and misses market expectations amid boycott. So, the reason they try and make those boycott divestment movements illegal is because they work. It's how we affected change. I mean, not the U.S. The U.S. sat out for the U.S. and Israel were South Africa's biggest supporters, but it was the weight of the world condemning them and divesting from them financially that forced South Africa to end its apartheid. And that's what's going to have to happen with Israel. But in the meantime, we're just watching tens of thousands of people be slaughtered and whole family lines wiped out. We didn't talk much about the New York Times rape story. The Gray Zone has done, I think, really fantastic and brave work. It's difficult, I think, to talk about rape allegations, especially since we know wherever there's war, there are war crimes, and wherever there's war, there's rape. So likely there was rape, and we know the IDF is accused of rape all the time. But the manufactured story about using it as part of their weapon, the weapon of sexual assault and rape, has pretty much fallen apart. And that is really due to the Gray Zone and Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate's reporting, and Electric Intifada and Mondo Weiss. They've all done really fantastic reporting, so much so that even though they're not credited in this story from The Intercept does report that the New York Times Daily podcast, which basically takes, prepackaged stories from the New York Times and then runs them to kind of give them, to highlight them more, sell it to their liberal crowd. They tabled it. They pulled it. They didn't do it because they could not confirm many of the details, and too many of the witnesses were found to be unreliable. So just putting that out there. My face is
absolutely
red.
And I have no doubt that, tragic, obviously, war and rape, but strategically, if you're Hamas, they didn't go over there to rape people as a group. It would have been the wrong message for what they were trying to do. Not that
they didn't have the time.
People,
the point was to take high target hostages and go back, right? Right. And so much. I mean, even one of the cousins of a hostage was on Israeli TV. There's a long clip. There she is, straight, of her talking about the Hannibal Directive being used and how their families who are hostages are being killed by Israelis. So by the IDF, there's no one in Israel who thinks that the primary reason for this genocide of Palestinians is to get back hostages. The only time any hostages have been released was during the ceasefire. And other than that, the 3 who escaped were killed by the IDF point blank. So the Israelis seem to feel more freedom to talk about the Hannibal Directive and the atrocities that are being carried out by the IDF than U.S. media.
Which is kind of crazy that our media is not reporting on it. But
I mean, it is insane. Okay, I think that we did that subject. Do we have any? I don't think we have any video on that. So you know what it's time for?
I'm hesitant, but I'm going to put the wheel up.
We got to spin that wheel. Yeah.
I have to prevent the cat from stepping on the keyboard first.
I didn't notice that, Chris, but that would make me very happy.
Oh, I would be stoked about that.
Yeah.
Because Mate is such a great reporter. He's done great work. His dad, he learned from his dad, who was also phenomenal.
Yep.
And
you
could tell, like when I watched him on Jimmy Dore before I abandoned Jimmy Dore, and you could see him squirm a lot of times trying not to offend Jimmy Dore when he disagreed.
Yeah. I mean, he's a real journalist, I think.
He is.
Yeah. So it's a different, All right, let's get that wheel up there. Let's see
Let's go, buddy.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, come on. I'm taking a shot. I'm making an audible. I'm having a shot while we watch the pup.
That's fair. You do your shot and I'll cue up the pup.
What is happening? Oh my God. I'm like out of a Dickens novel.
It's a short one. Here we go.
We're trying some new stuff. We're categorizing our timeline cleanses into different sections here.
I think Strike knew it's. Oh, did she disappear because of the green screen? She knew to come by right when puppets came on. Look at that. Look
at that.
Ouch.
She knew. And if you freeze the intro, you'll see our pets in those pictures. All right. So we are moving on. Gosh, StreamYard is not set up great for people who have lots of graphics. We are going to the economy and top ramen for all, which is a callback to that slide that we showed last week where Walmart was bragging that in the middle of a blizzard where I think it was like minus 18 and they forced their employees to come to work, they gave them top ramen and some saltines. 18 cents of a feel good quick break before you chop shop, get back to work.
Yeah. 18 cents. Ouch.
In spite of that generosity, the new Legal Shield data reveals the highest consumer financial stress level in 3 years. Bidenomics, baby. Bidenomics.
But we're told by guys like Will Stansel, last week's Worst of the Week, that the economy is doing great. And the truth is, the economy is doing great for people who already have money.
Yeah.
And corporations. Everyone else is struggling like hell. Jeff Bezos is not struggling. Jeff Bezos made just yesterday, this is from Warren Gunnell's chief of receipts, as we used to call him.
That's right.
$2.1 billion just yesterday.
I mean, it's so crazy because so much of his wealth, and that's what's quoted below, comes from government bailouts. Mississippi has approved bills to give Amazon a 10-year, 100% corporate tax exemption, plus 30 years of state tax exemptions. Lawmakers also set aside $44 million to help fund Amazon's latest project in the state. And Mississippi has the highest poverty rate in America. I don't know, it seems not to have made it in here, but there was some of the lawmakers in Mississippi wanted there to be a stipulation that Amazon would have to hire a certain percentage, like a quarter of the new hires would have to be local hires from Mississippi, but that was stripped out because you don't want to help people in the community.
So the way
money you're stealing.
The way our government used to work is these big companies would come into town and say, you politician, I will fund your campaign. I will give you all this money. In return, I will guarantee 10,000 jobs, which was always a loss because companies like Walmart and Amazon, what Walmart did was they did that in these cities, and they would come in and provide jobs for like 5 years. And then even though the buildings are fine, they would pack up as soon as their tax deduction break went, and they would fire everybody, move a few towns over, put up a new building. But now we're at the point where you can't even pretend they're jobs because Amazon, who first off, they provide some of the worst jobs, lowest paying jobs. They have the unsafe work environment for just about everybody.
Right.
They can't guarantee it because they're gonna automate all those jobs. So all the jobs they give people are gonna disappear.
Yep.
But it's a losing formula for the cities where these companies go to. It's temporary bullshit, low paying jobs
that we subsidize. And, with Walmart, a lot of the people are on public funds also because they don't make enough to sustain their housing and food. So not only does Walmart get tax breaks to build a new, superstore, just like Amazon, but then the government is also paying out benefits, whether it's food stamps or
and
extra sources of money for people who are working poor. They are not able to subsist on that. And so basically that means that Walmart and Amazon, they're like double dipping, and we're just bailing them out.
It's us handing all of our government money to Amazon, who obviously they give these shitty jobs, but they also close lots of small businesses and medium-sized businesses. So they're creating the problem to where all you can do is work there. And as you work there, all you can do is also be on the government programs because you can't feed your family, you can't pay rent, and you could be homeless and fully employed and working at Amazon. And but it's the only job in town because Amazon put, all the other opportunities are gone. And so even if you're in that position, automation is going to replace that job for most of those people. So there's no benefit to anyone bringing in an Amazon factory. It's any politician selling people on that is just taking a kickback from Amazon.
It's one of the few good things that AOC actually fought for or against at the beginning of her tenure. Yeah. I mean, I know like this isn't a new thought, but the idea that people work so hard for companies, have their money taken out, that then goes to the government who's paid by those companies to enact legislation that helps those companies more and hurts the people who are working for. I mean, it's like, it is such a rigged system. And to work your whole life just to be continually giving money to these people who use it for their own benefit or to slaughter people abroad. I mean, I don't know. I just, that's not cheery. So we can just move on. But it just sometimes feels really.
The biggest takeaway always on the economy to me is, look, if we detached healthcare from employment, it would be the biggest shock to the employment system in this country. Not many people are going to work for scraps at a shitty, evil company if they can at least have their healthcare paid, because you can survive in a tent somewhere, and if I'm taken care of with my health and my family and my kids, it's a different scenario than suffering an awful, evil situation. And once we get healthcare past universal healthcare in this country, it's not a solve all situation, but it's a huge step that we need to make happen here to improve a lot of people's lives.
Right. And And absolutely, someone wrote down here, sorry, Chris, why isn't the federal minimum wage tied to the cost of living? Of course, that's what should be happening. It's absurd that it's not. And yeah, Audra, this is the other thing, the Kroger-Albertsons merger, all of these monopolies that we used to fight against. I mean, I can't believe that I long for the days of Barnes and Nobles being on not every corner, but, I used to hate them because they were putting out of business the independent bookstores. And now Amazon's put almost all, I mean, we have like one bookstore in a 7-mile radius in Los Angeles. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. But Audrey she's been writing about this on her Substack. So if you all want to check out her writing on it. Yeah.
And I know I mentioned this before, but I wrote a book or two, and I wanted to avoid Amazon. So I was like, oh, Goodreads has all these reviews where people can just put their reviews up for your book. Amazon bought them, So that's what they do. They just chomp up everybody. Yeah. There's no competition that can survive them.
Yeah. Well, in good news, no, I mean, it's just like Supreme Court will be hearing a bipartisan effort to criminalize homelessness. And we've already been seeing, I think, was this in Sacramento? This was near you, Pat.
Yeah, I shared this.
Yeah.
They're using prison labor, and they have been repeatedly to clear the encampments because nobody wants to do that except people that
are being forced to.
Basically forced to.
Like slave labor. Yeah.
And there's no place for these people to go. And they've fucked with the laws so much that, they created these rules allegedly where you have to have so much space in the homeless camps before you clear camps, and they're not following it. Every government project that they try to do in Sacramento, like they built like 100 pods, these little minimal teeny housing units, which is a great idea, but it costs, $100 million. I'm throwing out a number. I don't know the actual number, and it took like 3 years to build them. And I think they're just now starting to move people into them. Right. And it's a solution for 100 people, Yeah. And then they also have like another project where it's like, they're going to turn a parking lot into a place for tents. And it's like $30 million project. And it's like, it's a parking lot, and you're just going to make it available for tents. Like it's the people just getting rich on this. Yeah. And none of this is altruistic. It's like, but none of it's going to solve the problem is the point.
No, we know the problem. Tax the rich, force people to pay a living wage, keep the federal minimum wage in line with cost of living.
More housing. Don't let banks buy houses.
Yeah, prohibit businesses from buying single family homes. I mean, there's so many solutions that would force
housing is the number one solution for homelessness. Affordable housing, which is unaffordable at this point, period, for people.
But it would force politicians to say no to their donors, and that is one thing they will never do. Another way.
If you just never retire.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's like, pleasure cruises, golf, and tracing the family tree, they're not that fulfilling. I mean, listen, I'm not into any one of those three. I mean, sort of family tree is interesting, but I don't know that would be like what you do in retirement.
I was going to say, I went on one cruise and it was actually fun.
Yeah.
And, I used to golf. My progressive card is gone, but I don't golf anymore. At least, golf is bad. I got it.
But the propaganda is strong with them. The other thing, they just did a big report on how huge companies, Coca-Cola and Post and all these companies use inmates, prison labor for their companies. So it's forced work. I mean, the other word for that is slavery. And so when you are, and, people will be like, oh, well, they're in jail. They shouldn't have done something illegal if they didn't want to go to, like that. But well, you've criminalized everything. Like you can't protest, you can't smoke weed, you can't,
we're looking at the convergence of those last two slides we showed. I mean, you're going to criminalize being homeless, and then you're going to put people in prison to work clearing the homeless camps.
It is really evil. It is evil.
It is evil, but
capitalism is the problem for
you
sure.
Just never retire. Keep reading those feel-good stories about the 1 in 2 billion people who like suddenly
pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
And they get a house out of their GoFundMe because their life is so fucking miserable. Well, believe me, I could find 10,000 people within 10 miles of me here living shitty, fucking awful lives that can't afford rent. And
that
they're
poverty
not getting
porn.
Miracle Mr.
No.
Who's the guy who has the rich bastard? I don't know.
I don't know, but that was another one of all of Obama's former staff has gone on to do the most disgusting things, whether they're working for like these gig economy Uber places or but one of them is one of the founders and has made millions on GoFundMe. It works out really well if you have a country that doesn't provide healthcare, and that's the primary use right now for GoFundMe. So you get to fight against universal health care and the one candidate who, whatever, said he was going to do it with your Obama. And then you get to profit off of people's maladies and desperation.
And you only like these GoFundMes. I feel so bad because I get DM'd every day about GoFundMes.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, I don't know you. And there are frauds out there. And unfortunately, the people who end up getting benefited from these things are people who can work social media somehow, or but most homeless people don't have access to social media in the way, and they don't have a compelling story necessarily, or they probably do, but
or they might not have a bank account where you can there's a lot of issues.
When they sweep these tent camps, they usually don't give these people enough time to gather their documents, and one of the biggest problems is you can't get a lot of public services without documentation because we have this red tape bullshit system. So, they take all their documents and it sets them back every time you sweep a camp. It's like they have to go get all this stuff and reboot their lives. And
it's awful.
It's
really a depraved system. All right. I think we need a spin of the wheel.
Let's do some cleansing here. Timeline cleansing or shots. We have look at those 6 shots.
I did a shot. I don't know what you were reading.
Yeah, baby.
I haven't done a shot all show. I'll do it.
Oh my God.
I'm ready.
Let's
do one more shot too.
All right. Are you calling an audible?
Yeah, and we'll timeline cleanse as well.
My nose apparently isn't red enough. Although it started being red before. I think it was just like I was getting annoyed. But why is it so red? I need to fix my lighting. I need a makeup woman to help me here, man.
It's not your red nose. It's not the booze. It's the lighting. I like that.
It's not my copious consumption of alcohol. It's the lighting. It's just very hot right here, right on my nose. No, but why is it so red? It's crazy. I definitely need better lighting. All right. We are moving on.
No, we hit timeline.
Timeline. Yeah, go.
Did we play one yet? We haven't played.
No, we did not.
Wait, did we play this Sweet Child of Mine? No, because I can't watch them, unfortunately, with what's happening. So you have to tell me. Did we play one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
She's got smile that it seems to me remind me childhood.
Oh my goodness! Yes, we did. We're doing this.
Oh, we did play.
Turn around. You gotta walk. Look down. Or is he riding? There you go. Right there. Look at him. Oh!
Oh shit! What the hell was that? What was that? Oh my gosh!
Wait, that's horrible. And also, I've done those before. You're like, when you set it up, you do the parameter of the room. That's
okay, I've done it a couple times. The first time I did it, I almost punched a brick fireplace mantle. Nobody, like, it's funny to people to film you punching things like an idiot. I was doing a boxing thing and I was like,
oh God.
but,
Yeah.
no, that's kind of sketchy. And Lila, I know she likes her feel good stuff and she didn't get to watch that. So this put that on me.
No, I mean, it's sort of is funny, but also ow. No, it's okay. I'm mostly just concerned about my Rudolph nose, as Devin called it. Okay, we are we're moving on, right, to worst of the week. Right?
Is it worst of the week time? Yeah, it is worst of the weekend.
I think we got there.
Thank God we have a guy.
Us. We've got a pace going on.
All right, worst of the week. Let's see it.
All right. Well,
the winner.
It's just time to bring her back. I'm just going to play it, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna set it up. Worst of the week is always, there's always so many people to choose from, but we felt like it was time. So this is the former Speaker of the House speaking on CNN.
They're in front of my house all the time. So I have a feeling for what feelings they have, but we have to think about what we're doing. And what we have to do is try to stop the suffering and gossip. This is women and children, people who don't have a place to go. So let's address that. But for them to call for a ceasefire is Mr. Putin's message. Mr. Putin's message. Make no mistake, this is directly connected to what he would like to see. Same thing with Ukraine. It's about Putin's message. I think some of these protesters are spontaneous and organic and sincere. Some, I think, are connected to Russia. And I say that having looked at this for a long time now. As you know,
think some of these protests are Russian plants?
I say they're plants. I think some financing should be investigated. And I want to ask the FBI to investigate that.
I mean, that is quite a tactic to call 80% of your base treasonous, like on the payroll of Russia.
Yeah, and as somebody who literally protested in front of her house,
your finances are about to be picked apart by the IRS.
Please look at my finances. Find me some tax breaks. Find the money. If you could find me any money, that would be phenomenal. But like, okay, we protested in front of her house, and who was it? It was the Red Beret movement. It was Medicare for All people. It was Jason Call, who was right. Cornel West's chair, campaign co-chair.
Yep.
I mean, these are known people with known addresses who are literally video. All of us and the people who organize in other parts are in that video that what's the movie called? I don't know. But,
Healing Us.
Healing Us. You can find, you can research and Google and find our names, and we are like just one day's worth of protesting in front of our house. But I guarantee there is not a concerted effort by China to protest in front of Nancy Pelosi's house.
Russia.
China, well, China
was the next thing she did. I know we have that video also. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these are the groups calling for a ceasefire. The Arizona and Texas Democratic Party, 80% of Democrats, 60% of Americans, thousands of Black pastors, Doctors Without Borders, the UAW, voters overwhelmingly want a ceasefire. And so this tactic of labeling anybody who wants peace as a traitor and on the payroll of, the awful, and by the way, it used to be like communism, but now it's just Russia, which, remember when Joy Reid said something about Russia being communist or Putin being a communist, which is hilarious. But anyway, but this tactic of just smearing the left is, as old as, yeah,
it's old, but it's also tried and true. It works less because obviously younger people are getting their media less and less from these places where they're watching. So the problem is it still works enough to put up a facade that works with liberals who aren't like the other statistics we showed, that 80% of Americans, Democrats support a ceasefire. Like CNN doesn't report on that. So they're not seeing that. They're just seeing Nancy Pelosi, and they're seeing some of these other, if you're a dedicated liberal and you're maybe older and all you do is watch CNN and MSNBC, you're not getting that other data that proves her wrong, like clearly. So you might believe her narrative that all these protesters are getting backed by Russia.
Yeah, they all have to be some sort of like outside agent infiltrators. And again, I mean, basically, she's calling for an investigation of the Democratic base, which, I mean, when you look at what's happening right now, we have Biden is losing in every single swing state. I know you can't see that. Sorry, the graphic is so much bigger when I first pull it. But Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Losing in all of those states. He's lost. He's lost
just every state that it takes to actually stop the fascist.
Right. That's it. That's it.
Everyone.
Because not all, because there's so many reasons that he is wildly unpopular, but it really started plummeting with this, support of a genocide with no red lines. And now all of the things that they warned us about, the environment with Trump, you have to vote for Biden because he'll be better on the environment. Nope, he's worse. You have to vote if you want any movement on police. Nope, he's funding them more. How about the military? Trump is so chaotic, he'll start World War III. We are bombing 4 countries right now with no congressional oversight or approval. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's going to make the case that is Trump worse. I don't know. I mean, I know he's like garish and gross, but like
the case they have to make is abortion. That is the number one case they're going to try to make. And you still have to look at it and say, look, we lost all these rights under Biden, Mr. Bipartisan, Mr. We should have good Democrats, good Republicans. We should work across the aisle. The only success he sort of had was the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So they had the genius idea of taking the only thing that could possibly be successful and help people, which was because of the COVID and the pandemic, people needed this help, and they tacked a bipartisan on it. Like, he has nothing. Like, he's going to run on preventing abortion rights from getting worse than they got under his own presidency. That's his biggest win, is that he lost abortion rights.
That he lost abortion rights, that he could have codified it, that he said he would, and now they're saying just give us back the House, or give us back the House, and what they're not even promising anything. Actually,
they're
just saying it will get worse.
Look, he can't win. First off, he's not going to win. But if he did win, it would never be a sweeping win that brought in enough votes to get back the House. So you're in this scenario where nothing can be done, period. And if you vote for him, like, it's depressing.
We already saw him with the House and the Senate. We saw that. That was the first 2 years. He got nothing done. He stripped all of the protections that had come into place under Trump. And then And
anytime they bring up student loan debt, as they're trying to pretend it's a win and advertise it, if you advertise and you promote yourself as somebody who did something on student loan debt, that turns off more people than it appeals to, because everyone who has student loan debt knows you have to hit the lottery to have gotten any forgiveness.
Yeah, it's like 0.03% of debt has been forgiven.
Right. So celebrating that as a win turns people off. Celebrating COVID as a win turns a lot of people off. Celebrating that you're not the war president turns a lot of people off because they look around. Celebrating anything that he is trying to pretend as a win is not a win, and everybody sees it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, he's running on, like, he started now. The only thing that they kind of keep going back to a little bit, they do Roe v. Wade, but I think they're kind of realizing that that's not such a winning argument, because they could have codified it in his first 2 years. They're talking about rights. That is like their last, it's always, a social issue, which, by the way, as these rights are getting stripped in different states, there are things that as the leader of the country, he could do with federal funds to, try to whip states into
of course
adhering to civil rights for all of the members of their state. So he's doing none of that.
Of course. And I don't remember which states, but there were some federal programs canceled. Like you couldn't, your federal program couldn't go to certain states for conferences because they had LGBT, anti-LGBT legislation, et cetera, et cetera. We don't hear about any of that. They're not even having that fight. So to pretend to have that fight, suddenly right before the election is crazy. And this comes back to the climate change people, which we love, climate defiance. I do love them. Friends of the show, we had them on, but they were recently celebrating that that Biden agreed to stop new expansion of liquefied
natural gas, LNG.
And look, anything stopping growth is a win, I suppose, but you can't really celebrate in an election year a temporary stop to something that expands things. That's not the kind of win that saves our country at all.
Slower rate of increase.
Yeah, it's Obamacare. Yeah. It's like celebrating.
Yeah.
It's like celebrating Obamacare when you know the outcome of Obamacare.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing what he's doing with the border bill now. The border bill now where he is, I can't tell if you're talking. No, that was you finishing your sentence. That lag is crazy. Between my red face and your lag and me getting frozen, I am really sorry, but I'm so distracted. I feel like I'm going to wear a mask in my house all by myself just to cover this up. I don't know why it's so red. I need to find a good light for myself.
My lag has gotten really worse. I'm going to be here, but I'm going to remove my camera for a second and see.
All right. Oh my God. Why would you do that? I didn't need that. What?
Look at that red nose.
I know it's terrible. I need to be. Yeah, that's much better. Look at that. The border bill, which is disgusting. It is worse than anything proposed by. It's almost exactly what Republicans want. So now Biden is giving them exactly all these draconian measures that, as the leader of the country, he can shut down the border whenever he wants. So basically, if that bill were supported by Republicans, and of course Democrats are going to line up behind it because they want to give Biden a win, which is throwing migrants under the bus. But so now that's the starting point, and Republicans, you give them everything that's their exact bill, and now they're going to fight against it, just the way they did with the Heritage Foundation's Romney Care, which was Obamacare. Right. And now they hate it. They loved it when it was Romney.
And Democrats are running on tough on the border now, because they just what the fuck are we doing? This has woken a lot of people up to how feckless the Democratic Party is. Now they don't know what to do with that now. They're like, what do we fucking do? And that's the question, but that's why you support every protest. You support every action to withhold funds from any evil, anything in the world, and get out there and raise some hell. But you can't just vote for these fucking losers like Biden. I'm sorry. If it means Trump wins, I don't fucking care. We have to do something
voting the lesser evil, has not worked. We've been doing that for 50 years. So you cannot say that works. And at least, listen, I hate Trump. I hate the sound of his voice. I hate his stupid tweets. I hate the chaos. And Biden does all the same stuff, but just more quietly. But at least when Trump was in, look what happened. Me Too, gone. Black Lives Matter, gone. Protesting the police, gone. Talking about the environment, the migrants in cages, all of that. Silence, COVID, the death ticker, gone. So I don't know. I actually don't know if it's harm reduction to have somebody like Biden in power. I really don't.
I don't think it is at this point. I
lean
more
towards.
Anybody
can argue it. Yeah.
But see, when you say you lean towards accelerationism, like I kind of do now, that generally is like, there's an assumption behind it, like, oh, let's let it get so bad that people see it's going to change. And I'm not convinced that it's going to get that much. It's not going to get worse is the thing. I don't think that's the right term anymore. Like, it's not acceleration. It's not accelerating us to worse.
I mean, I feel like Biden was the accelerationist.
Yeah. And if Trump's in power, it's worse for how our country like self-identifies. It's worse for LGBT people, probably Q plus people. It's probably worse for immigrants. In a lot of ways, these are realities. It probably is. Yeah. It's more, the racism is more out in front for you. Right. But when you get to the policy, and when you get to, when that's the case, that our government is so overtly a certain way, the public is raising up and fighting it more, which puts pressure on the news to report on it more, which puts more pressure on the legislation to fight against it more. Right. So is it a net wash? I don't know, but we don't get closer to a good functional society by ignoring all the flaws of the Democratic Party. And you can't vote for the Democratic Party over and over again and not be co-signing some of these policies. And genocide in Palestine is the clearest one of all. And it's why they're going to lose for sure in 2024, which is
for sure. This is a Michigan ad. This is really powerful.
Who cares about the Arab population? 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 Who cares about the Arab population?
I mean, that it is politics of fear. You have got to be scared of the people you are supposed to represent leaving you. They're scared of their donors, and that's why they do their bidding. They don't want that money gone. They're not scared. They call us traitors who are on Putin's payroll, or tell, Code Pink to go back to their Chinese headquarters. It's like the disregard that they have for anything that their voters care about. It is just so clear. I know we all know this isn't a democracy, but they're not even pretending anymore. Like, there's no part of them that is pretending that they care about what their voters want.
It's right out in the public. It's in the public's eye. They see, the one hope we have is that Palestine is the one issue. I think that everybody, like, we haven't seen 80% support for something that our politicians are against so overtly, and the media is propping up so overtly. So maybe that wakes some people up. Maybe there's something good comes out of that. But the closer we get to the election, the more it's going to shift to even more propaganda on the TV. We're going to get less actual, once in a while, some real reporting will pop through, like Joanne Reed saying, Biden got us in another fucking war. I don't know if you guys heard that off mic clip, but
that was pretty good. That was good. But then you still have AOC, running cover for genocide and saying, listen, there are some issues, but that can't be a red line. Like, what is your red line, lady? Your ruckus. What's your ruckus red line? That's not it. She's telling people to grow up. You have to be adult about this. No, I am an adult, and I will stop. I will never vote for this kind of corruption, ever, ever. My last vote for corruption was so awful, but in 2016, I voted for Hillary after working for Bernie and all that kind of stuff. I was like, ugh, it can't be Trump, and I will just never do that again. That was it.
Well, I'm better than you because I didn't. So
you are better than I am. See, that's twice. You were right once on this show, and
I think I was right at least twice tonight.
I'm totally.
We should have a ticker. We need a ticker. Let's get some graphics.
Get that into StreamYard. Okay. Do we have anything else? We have other things, but that's kind of it. I was sort of curious. I know we're pretty much at the end, but Cornel West released a video today, and we just have the still from it. I didn't think we would have time to show the video, but he's doing this Justice for All party. Yeah, it was, I mean, it was, good. It makes sense because in some states it's easier to get on the ballot if you're an independent, and in some states there are fewer,
he's running as an independent and then also as the Justice for All.
Right.
Like, that's the moral of it. I mean,
mostly I just want, I would love to have 3-4 extra left-leaning parties, the Green Party, the Justice for All Party, the PSL, great, let's get them all going on. Obviously, I don't think, there is a chance that RFK Jr. could win. There is the slimmest bit of a chance if enough people stay home one way or the other, and who knows, right now, there does not seem to be much of a chance for any of the left people whom I would vote for. But the project, I think, has to be to start gaining power for more left parties. So,
Yeah. And to be totally honest about it, our revolution should have turned into a political party.
Yeah.
It should have. And instead it turned into shilling for the Democratic Party and, kind of a mess, unfortunately. But that was our opportunity. So, look, if you're a Green Party person, a West person, a whatever person, RFK Jr., but you're probably not, if you're watching me, because I fucking hate that guy. He's trash. He's the worst on COVID of all of them.
I mean, he's horrible on COVID. He's horrible on Israel. He's horrible on the border.
Awful.
He's awful. Oh, hey, before we end, we're getting used to all of our new stuff. So forgive me for, it's not as smooth as we normally are. We're never smooth. We also wanted to thank our, what is it called? Sorry. Our super chats. Devin, thank you. The gifting a Punch Up Pod membership. That is so generous. Thank you. Adria, also, thank you. You guys are awesome. It really is just amazing. Kimmy, thank you. Super sticker. And Cora, anyone looking for a retirement project and love historical artifacts, did you know that you can make a real look at a French kitchen?
We should start GoFunding guillotines. Let's do that. Did that get us kicked off here?
I got kicked off of Twitter for a while.
Maybe we'll show the video of how to make a guillotine. That should be
that will be the end of our experience on YouTube, and we'll have to go over to Rumble or wherever the hell.
My cats are getting salty back here.
Strike. All right.
So wait, I think we got one more spin of the wheel for a shot or time on cleanse, and then we'll end with one good thing to take us out.
All right.
Here.
Let's see. Yeah, baby.
I'm just hoping for a shot, because if I do shots on my own at home, it's just
baby.
I am hoping for some look at you manifesting the alcohol.
Right? Exactly.
Well, I'm a rule follower, and I'm gonna go ahead and do before I get to my wine.
Okay,
ready?
Let's see.
Baby.
Let's get it Are you scared?
Yeah. Let's see the puppets.
This is happy-ish.
Do you remember which one you...
I had to include a little violence fan there.
Sorry. I think it's funny that you accuse me of being so wholesome, and then you're all pets all the time.
I know. I get accused every day of being like a roidy guy and a flaming feminist and a softie and sheep, and it's
coming from all areas. It's just trying to shut you down.
Yeah.
All right, you all are awesome. This is so much fun for us. Thank you. We are going to go out on our one good thing. That's our new way to leave us all with something inspirational and remind us that our power is each other. So thank you guys all for hanging out with us. Keep punching up. See you next week.
Thank you guys. Till next week.
It's a dangerous love affair. Only thing that's on my mind to go run this town tonight.
Yeah, I said it, we are.
To go run this town tonight.
All black, everything. And our girls are blackbirds. Riding with they diligence. Kid more than death if you boys really, really love. Cause now we squared up. Hold up.
To go run this town tonight. To go run this town tonight.
Get out of my pub!
We gon' run this town, town.